All right. Thank you for joining me. My name is Brian Banks from Your Career Day. Can you give us your name?
Yes, I'm Brian Day from
Okay.
Itchen, Connecticut right now.
Okay. And where's your hometown, Brian?
I'm originally from Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. That's where I was born and raised, but I've lived all over the country and currently in Connecticut.
Okay. Now, what is your career title?
Right now, I'm a professor of filmmaking, but I think of myself as a filmmaker slash educator, but I've been a filmmaker for 30 years and educator for only half of that time. So filmmaking has definitely taken the lead.
Okay. Now, what does being a filmmaker entail?
Oh, that's a great question. It's actually much more than one word. So
Hmm.
filmmaker is an endless opportunity of creative output. What I mean by that is you can be a filmmaker where you're a one-man shop,
Hmm.
where you kind of come up with an idea, you follow through its development, you figure out how to produce it, and then you find its end game of where it's going to find its audience on its eyes.
Hmm.
You can work as a filmmaker with a small team. You can be a filmmaker, but your specialty is sound. So you actually think of yourself as a filmmaker, but your expertise is maybe recording sound on location, or maybe it's designing sound in a sound finishing house. So I think of myself as a filmmaker that started as a writer director,
Hmm.
transitioned into being an editor, and then came back out into being that kind of filmmaker that finds an idea, develops it, creates the full project, edits it, and then finds a market with a team of people. But I kind of find myself as that central role of guiding the project through.
Okay. Now, what type of education is required to be a filmmaker?
It's a another great question. College education. I tell everybody that aspiring to be a filmmaker, yeah, you can get on YouTube and you can see how to operate a camera, but they're not really teaching you about how to be a filmmaker. Which a filmmaker is really being able to embrace ideas, have this kind of ongoing curiosity, be able to take the creative skills you've learned how to put to work and connect them to your curiosity to tell a story that an audience is going to connect to. And I think that really comes from an education. So a college education, it doesn't necessarily have to be film specific. You could be a historian and you just love the stories of history. And
Hmm.
then you learn how to, maybe you minor with a film. I mean, obviously it can be great to major in film as well, but
Yeah.
a filmmaker doesn't have to be just somebody that spent all their time studying film.
Okay. Um, you talked about this a little bit. What was the road to your current position? How'd you get to be a filmmaker?
I fell in love with film when I was probably 20-ish, so probably pretty close to
Mhm.
the age of the audience that this is geared towards. Um, I was taking a film history class in my undergraduate, and at the time I was studying to be a broadcast journalist, but
Okay.
never really loved it, and saw film and just fell in love with this idea of what you can do with film and how you can reach people, and realized how film had an impact on my life, and then that just created a spark. And so then I went to New Orleans and I went to the grad school, University of New Orleans, to study film, and shot film on film. Predates the digital age by quite a while. And then I went out to Los Angeles and ended up working in the industry and found myself in the editing room and editing films.
Hmm.
Really, really loved that. And then about 15 years ago, I decided to take my experience and take it into the classroom to teach filmmaking, but at the same time allow myself the creative freedom to continue to make films. And so, in some ways, I'm actually more creative as a filmmaker outside of the constraints of Hollywood,
Hmm.
because I can find it something I'm curious about, pursue it, find some funding for it, find a crew to work with, create that project, and then find a market for
Okay. Um, what makes this career fun, interesting, or exciting, or all of the above?
it. And I think it is all of the above. I think it's fun, um, because it's magic. You're creating magic, and that's
Hmm.
really, most people that have 99.9% of the people on the planet have seen a film, and 99% of them have seen many films, and
Hmm.
then 99% of them have, all of those that have seen a film have been incredibly impacted by it. And there's a
Hmm.
magic to that. There's a magic that can't be captured in any other art form because it's a kind of a collection of the other art forms brought together. So the power of it is really significant. So I think um, when you are able to be a part of that, of creating something that is going to linger for an extended period of time and might impact an audience 15 years down the road after you as the filmmaker long forgot it, there's something really magical about that. The process itself I find fun because it's a lot of creative energy, um, a lot of creative problem solving, a lot of readjusting when things aren't going the way you expected them to. To me, I think that's all fun and energetic. And when you're around people that embrace that as well, it's just like a family, a fun family hanging out, having a good time. It's hard to call it work. It always seems to be fun. So, yeah, I feel really, really lucky. So,
Wow, that's great. My final question, what advice would you give to someone that might want to follow in your footsteps?
okay. What would I say to someone? Education.
Mhm.
Educate, embrace a growth mindset where you're always looking to expand and kind of embrace things that you don't know and know that you're never going to know everything. And that's really important because if you think you're going to know everything as a filmmaker, you're going to be frustrated because it's always changing, it's always adapting. And when
Right.
you can't pick on a creative project, it's never going to be exactly the way you wanted it to be, and be able to embrace that and say, oh, I'll go on to the next one and try to make that one even closer to what I want it to be.
Mhm.
So the growth minded, the curiosity, just you have to have an ingrained curiosity. You want to know about things so that you explore those, learn about them, and then trust that there's an audience that's like you that will want to learn about it as well. Um, and then passion. I think you
Yeah.
have to have passion. It can be incredibly competitive. It's very, very rewarding, but there's, thousands upon thousands of people, even for the position on a film that you've never heard of or don't even pay attention to.
Mhm.
There's thousands of people that are vying for that position.
Right.
But you have to have the passion to kind of see it through, and persevere.
Yeah. Okay. Brian, I really appreciate your knowledge and wisdom about filmmaking. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and I wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you, thank you. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.